The start of Rome. Rome began in 753 BC. It was discovered by Romulus and Ramses. Rome gets its name from its first king, Romulus. Romulus became king after he killed his brother Ramses. Rome began on the central of Italy's Tiber River as a small town. It became an empire after the rise and fall of Julius Caesar. Rome grew in strength and size and became a trading town. Rome learned its religion and literacy from the Greeks. The Etruscans were a model for trade. Rome used and upgraded concepts of other cultures. In 1870, Rome became the official capital of Italy. Ancient Rome started out being a monarchy. Around 509 BC, the citizens of Rome gained its control from the Etruscans, and the Roman Republic started. The officials were elected by the citizens of Rome. Elected officials were called magistrates. The people all shared the leadership. The consuls were in the highest position. The Senate of Patricians showed the consuls. There were 2 consuls who ruled the republic. The consul worked closely with the Senate while making decisions. The senators advised the consuls and were selected for life. The plebeians had no say in the government at first, but they eventually gained power and were able to be one of the consuls. The plebeian council was where the common people elected leaders and passed laws of the plebeians, and they could veto laws. Governors were the local rulers, and they were in charge of the local army. Senators and governors came from wealthier families. Plebeians and patricians were strictly separated, and marriage between the 2 classes was prohibited. The Roman Republic lasted 500 years until the fall of Rome. Social classes. Patricians. The patricians were the wealthy and the ruling class in the early years of Rome. You had to be born into the patrician class because it was prohibited for the patricians and plebeians to get married. The patricians' responsibilities consisted of making the laws, sharing the responsibilities of being senator, and caring for the land that they owned. Although there was a small percentage of patricians, they always held more power because they were the true descendants of the original people in Rome. The patricians were most likely resented for their power. Plebeians. The plebeians consisted of everyone else and were known as the common people, or plebs. Plebeians fought many of Rome's battles. The responsibilities of the plebeians included fighting in the army. Many plebeians the patricians' land. The plebeians were farmers, craftsmen, laborers, and soldiers. The plebeians had hardly any power at all, so they fought for their rights and their power mainly through riotings and going on strike. They refused to fight in the army until they gained more power, so the patricians gave them more rights to avoid conflict. They could now marry into the patrician class and run for office. They could also elect their own government officials. Major events. The Law of 12 Tables. One of the important events that occurred during this era was when the Law of 12 Tables were invented. The Law of 12 Tables was a written code that lasted as long as the Roman Empire lasted. Some of the laws were harsh. These codes were thought of as the beginning of the European laws. The original tablets were destroyed in 390 BC. The spread of Christianity. Christianity began in ancient Rome, but Christians were being hunted as criminals. They didn't worship the Roman gods, and that was against the law. Christians considered themselves equal to other Christians. The number of Christians grew fast. Although most Christians were poor, some were rich. Finally, in 313, Emperor Constantine made it legal to be a Christian. After a short while, Christianity was Rome's main religion. 2 consuls elected to keep one from becoming king or queen. Consuls were elected by a popular vote, and after they were elected, they served 1-year terms. They had to wait 10 years before they could run for consul again. Consuls decided when to go to war, how much taxes to collect, and what the laws were. Consuls also had control of the army and listened to the advice the senators gave them. Consuls originally came from patricians, but were later chosen from patricians and plebeians. After that, it was required for at least one of the consuls to be plebeians. If a consul died, a suffect consul was elected to serve for the rest of the term. At the end of the term, the consuls would take the title proconsul and would generally serve as provincial governors. Senate. Senators were very important people in the Roman Republic. Senators were not elected, they were appointed by a censor, and they couldn't make laws, only decrees, but the decrees were generally obeyed. In the early years of Rome, only wealthy men could be senators. Senators were people who had been a previously elected official. If they lost their wealth, they were expected to resign. Senators passed all the laws, and you had to be rich to become a senator. If you were elected, you remained a senator for life. Although senators didn't get paid, it was considered a lifelong goal to become one. Veto. A veto is a right to reject a law or proposal. In ancient Rome, the emperor could veto any law or motion if they wished to do so. A consul could veto any law or motion and could veto the other consul. Lastly, a tribune could veto a law or motion if it interfered with the plebeians' wishes and the will of Rome. If you chose to veto a law or motion, you had to leave a comment on the card of proposal. A law or motion could not be vetoed just for the fun of it, and it can't be auto-passed. Something could only be vetoed if it was unfit for Rome. Important people in ancient Rome. Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was one of the best military leaders. He was General Marius's nephew. After Marius's death and Sulla's rise, his life was in time of jeopardy. Later on, in the 60s BC, he became very successful. He became part of the first triumvirate, along with Pompey the Great and Crassus, when the three controlled Rome during the 50s BC. But after Crassus' death, Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great went to war against each other in 49 BC. Caesar later became the governor of Cisalpine and Transalpine Gaul. Caesar marched against the Germans and drove them out of Gaul. Later on, Caesar conquered Gaul and it became a Roman province. In early 49 BC, Caesar began civil war with Pompey the Great. Caesar decided to invade Italy, and in less than 70 days, he drove Pompey the Great to Macedonia. Julius Caesar also decided to attack Spain, which supported Pompey, and he was victorious. He then sailed to Macedonia, but couldn't defeat Pompey. He fell back into Greece, then defeated Pompey the Great once and for all. He was then drawn into an affair with Cleopatra in Egypt, where he fought 2 more battles. He was assassinated by political rivals on the Ides of March in 44 BC. Romulus and Remus. Romulus and Remus were twins. Their father left them in a basket on the Tiber River after he was afraid they were going to overthrow him as kings. They were found in a river by a she-wolf. The she-wolf protected them from other wild animals. One day, 2 shepherds came across the twins. One of them took the boys home and raised them, and they became natural leaders. One day, Remus was captured and taken to the king, where his real identity was discovered. Romulus got some shepherds together and went to rescue his brother. They ended up killing the king. They were offered crowns, but they turned them down because they wanted to found their own city. They set off and eventually found where Rome is today. There was only one problem. They wanted the city to be on different hills. They decided to wait for a sign from the gods to tell them where the city should be. Romulus went ahead and built a wall around the hill that he chose. Remus got jealous and started to make fun of the wall. He eventually jumped over the wall to show Romulus just how easy it was to cross. Romulus got angry and killed Remus. Romulus built the empire and named himself King of Rome, which is named after him. Augustus. Augustus was born on September 23, 63 BC in Rome. His uncle Julius Caesar made him the heir of his fortune. After Caesar died, he Augustus gathered military and political support. He was elected consul. The second triumvirate consisted of Mark Antony, Lepidus, and Augustus. After a while, they started battling each other. After Lepidus was defeated, Mark Antony allied himself with Cleopatra. Augustus ended up defeating Mark Antony and Cleopatra. He was then the most powerful man in Rome. This is when the Senate gave him the name Augustus, and he became the ruler and emperor of Rome. Augustus brought back peace and prosperity. He also rebuilt much of the empire. He built roads, buildings, bridges, and government buildings. Augustus strengthened the army and conquered a lot of land around the Mediterranean Sea, and the next 200 years were full of peace. The end of ancient Rome. Rome ended in 476 AD. There were many reasons why Rome fell, including attacks by barbarian tribes. It had an aggressive growth, so it was difficult to govern. The trade fell, and they were short on food. In 364 AD, Rome was divided into 2. The Western Empire ended in 476 because Romulus Augustulus was deposed. Although Rome took a long period of time to fall, some local Roman societies went down right away. Glossary. Christianity. Religion based on the teaching of Jesus. Civil law. A legal code of ancient Rome. Conquered. Overcome and take control. Consul. Leaders of ancient Rome. Dictatorship. A ruler with all power. Era. Period of time. Fell. Ended. Forum. Meeting place. Model. Good example. Monarchy. Type of government with one leader. Patricians. Wealthy people. Plebeians. Unwealthy people. Republic. Power is held by people. Senate. People who passed laws.